I'll talk about the whole season. My biggest complaint about this entire show is unfortunately the same exact thing I've been saying since season 8 of the main show. None of these emotional moments matter if you've forgotten the story you were telling. The reason why no one really cared for All Out War is because everyone had infinite ammo and nothing mattered. And as like further into the series we got, it only became worse and worse and worse and worse until we had literal gods running around, right? Like the cave incident. That's like the one I keep coming back to. And this entire show was that. Literally everyone except Rick and Michonne are NPCs meant to interact with the main character and then say their line. And it's so bad. Like episode 5 was the absolute worst for this. Let's go back. I didn't even bring my head is so scattered, I didn't even bring this up. While I was watching this episode, you know the thing I kept thinking, and you shouldn't be thinking this while watching a show. Every single time they snap back to like the early days of The Walking Dead, I found it jarring. I found it incredibly jarring because the tone between those two events was so drastically different that I was just like, I want to go back there. Stop like cutting back. I just want to remain there. You know? It's the Game of Thrones problem. It is literally, this is what happened to Game of Thrones. Is it literally what happened to Game of Thrones? And I hate it. I hate it so much. About episode 5, I even wrote this down. Yeah, there we go. So, number 1, it's like they've completely forgotten about the fact that we are like a decade plus into the apocalypse. They just keep finding pristine things. I don't know why. Number 2, remember that lady at the start of season 4? The one that Rick meets in like episode 1. The one with like her zombified husband, right? And she wants to feed Rick to him. Remember that? That was a year into the apocalypse. Well, I guess a year and a half, something like that. Anyway, something like that, right? We have that picture in our minds. Now we are a decade plus into the apocalypse. We run into like 4 NPCs. The people we run into episode 5. They're literal NPCs. And the best part, Rick and Michonne overpower them. They just completely flip. It's like, our event has been fulfilled, therefore we go on over to our NPC phrase. It's just, oh my god. I had an explicit, oh yeah, I wrote down, oh, how are you so good? How could anyone ever care about anyone? And I was just like, oh, this is the world where we avoided meeting people because it was dangerous. This is the world where, like, literally meeting anyone was potentially dangerous. And we encounter this group, we overpower them, and they literally turn into, oh my god, how could you be so good? I never thought people like you existed. You are so special. You might be the ones who live. It's like literally an NPC. Also, Jadis. Oh my god, Jadis. Jadis and Bale or Beale or Maze. All of them had the same exact thing. Delivering the freaking I am dying monologue. He's dumb. Don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, a walker shows up and they overpower 4 people. Yeah, it's like, once again, they were surrounded by like 4 or 5 different people. And they just overpower them. Why? Because Rick and Michonne. Love never dies. It was so bad. And then, yeah, like the NPC is dying, she delivers monologue, press E to continue. It was incredible. She was, by the way, she was bitten on the neck, and there's no blood. She's just chilling. She was bitten like right here. And she's vibing. She's just delivering a monologue. I think this show was like average at best. I think the show was at the absolute peak in episode 1 and this final scene. Those are the 2 things that I liked in this show. And obviously, what was his name? The cool dude that they killed off immediately. Like the big brain dude that Michonne met. That was a really, really cool character. I really, really liked them. Everything else in this show was like the most average thing you could probably write, in my opinion. I didn't find any of it engaging in hindsight. I think the whole CRM, Nats. Yes, Nats. Okafor was also pretty interesting. But again, it went nowhere. It literally went nowhere. If you don't mind spoilers about Game of Thrones, right? And Lord of the Rings, I guess. There are two bits of dialogue that I feel like could sum up my entire thoughts on this show. So basically, spoilers for this, I guess, if you care. So you may know, in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf supposedly dies, then he comes back and he's even more powerful. George R.R. Martin always said that that was like one of his least favorite parts of Lord of the Rings. It's gonna be important. So George R.R. Martin really doesn't like that a character dies and death doesn't do anything. That is what George R.R. Martin thought. And then we look at the Game of Thrones adaptation, right? Where Jon Snow dies and he comes back and literally nothing happens. So the show went directly against the author's intention. This is what I think this has done. I think they've completely lost vision of what The Walking Dead was, and Rick and Michonne and Daryl and Carol are literal action figures running around NPCs. And everyone will always bend the knee to them, and nothing bad will ever happen. We will never have any sort of moral ambiguity. Rick and Michonne literally topple the CRM in an afternoon, and they're back to their kids. It's so surface level. It's so surface level, and it's like so pointless. Because like, people compare Daryl Dixon, spoilers for The Last of Us. Okay, spoilers for the ending of The Last of Us. Big spoilers. Actually, very big spoilers. People compare Daryl Dixon to The Last of Us. How about we actually look at what The Last of Us did? The ending of The Last of Us implies that Joel chooses Ellie over the rest of humanity. That is a big decision. What did Rick choose? What was Rick's agency in this entire show? What was the point of any of this? Nothing. They are the ones who live. They fix all problems, and everything is sorted. It makes me so sad. It makes me so sad and disappointed. I am unironically, I am so shocked and sad that all of this amounted to literally nothing. I sent a chat on Twitch saying that if they made Rick into a god in this show, then it's pretty much over for the story. Has gone out of the window. I'm gonna be honest with you. I am having, like, people always ask me, what do you think fell off harder, The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones? I think they're on par now. I genuinely think so. Because Game of Thrones, the problem with Game of Thrones is that all of Game of Thrones looks very good. The acting is always good, right? All of these things are good. It's the scripts and the world that the story takes place in that are completely forgotten. Characters that were once smart are dumb. People who need to travel, teleport around. All of these fundamental things that the story had set up, right? And like Jon Snow. Jon Snow is basically Rick Grimes. Nothing bad will ever happen to them. And that's what I mean. And I think this goes back to Season 7 and Season 8. I think Season 8 was the biggest bit where it all just crashed down. I think Season 8 is where they went off the rails with action, and they realized that they can never pull back. And then they just kept doing that. And then they obviously lost Carl and lost everyone, and then I think they just had to make stuff up. But in hindsight, I think that's where everything crumbled down. I guess you can make an argument that it's even Terminus. But I think Terminus was forgivable. The fact that the overarching CRM plot was resolved in dialogue in the helicopter is almost insulting. Yeah. Yeah. You know what the last thing I wrote here is? They've wasted the most interesting characters only to focus 200% on fanfiction. Great job, 10 out of 10. What I meant by fanfiction is that, like, most of the show is just Rick and Michonne, right? And that's what I mean. You could say I went in with, like, the wrong expectations, that this was supposed to be like Rick and Michonne's victory lap. If you want to write a romance story, how about you write a romance story and not The Walking Dead? You know? I think there are many ways you can tell a very beautiful story of, like, romance in the apocalypse without it being just two invincible people running around saying we're the ones who live, love never dies, and killing everyone. Because I think you could have told a very beautiful, like, somber story of them meeting, them reuniting, keep all the kissing scenes, let them kiss for like half of the runtime, I don't care. But just write an actual story and not a beat by beat thing of they are both invincible, they're vibing. They take down like this overarching community of not 50,000, of like however many thousand there are here. It's laughable in my mind. I'm really shocked and sad. I'm really shocked and sad. This is the Rick and Michonne show. We know they're not gonna die. They can still write what you're asking after this. Yeah, but like, what was the point of this? You know? Like, what could they realistically write after this that is not once again some ridiculous escalation? To me, I think genuinely this is my stop. So, I think this is where I get off of Rick's story. He's reunited with his family. Everything how that happened is dumb, but I got to see Andrew Lincoln as Rick act with him reuniting with his family. I think this is it. I think this is where I get off. Just waiting for Leon and Ada to show up in the Daryl Dixon season to win some boss fight variants. I don't understand why they're so scared of just going back to day one and doing it from scratch. That's what I don't understand. Just like literally going back to, because like, let me go on another tangent. By the way, like, I'm laughing, but you have no idea how much this hurts me. You have no idea, like, genuinely, how sad I am right now. I genuinely feel the exact same as I did when I finished Game of Thrones. Genuinely. I'm so sad. Anyway, what I was going to talk about, right? Game of Thrones fell off. I was like, I am never touching anything to do with with Game of Thrones. Like, unless George drops the book, right? Unless like Winds of Winter comes out, I'm never touching Westeros ever again in my life. I got so burned. No, I'm out, right? And then House of the Dragon came out, and they went back to their roots. And big surprise, people liked it. And that's what I mean. I don't understand why they're so afraid of going back to what worked and just telling a completely new story. Just really understanding the nuts and bolts of what made The Walking Dead work. And what made The Walking Dead work is the universe. The setting of where everyone is in danger. It is about survival, and in the midst of that survival, we have all these human stories. In this case, you could put like 20 different spins on it in terms of information asymmetry. Maybe this group already knows that everyone turns, yada yada. There's a bunch of different stuff you could do. They should have Daryl and a couple of others reunite with Rick, with the ending of Rick's character would be perfect. Honestly, if they did something like that, I'd probably watch a clip on YouTube. I don't think I'm gonna keep up with Dead City and Daryl Dixon, I'm gonna be honest. I genuinely feel like no drive to do that at this point. The more I look back on like the spin-off era, and I think you can clearly see this by like, because the last retrospective came out like 2 months ago now, right? And my work is very sporadic. I've said this before. I never want to make main channel stuff about things that I really don't enjoy, right? Because I think it comes across in the videos and it's just not fun to watch if I'm constantly like complaining about something. So I don't want to do that. And like with not World Beyond. Let's not even mention World Beyond. With this, I was like, I'm gonna wait for it to end, and then I'll continue season 11. But right now, I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't even know. I'm so sad. I think with The Walking Dead moving forward, I think I'm gonna make more stuff about the start of the series. I think I'm gonna go back to season 1, 2, 3, 4 and talk about those things more in depth. Because in the retrospectives, those are like season 1 is a single video. If I did season 1 now, I'd probably make it like 4. So I think I'm gonna go back and we're gonna talk about the good times. We're gonna talk about the good times. If you don't like it, you shouldn't watch. You gotta watch stuff to make you happy. Oh, how I wish I could hear your words. How I wish I could hear your words. I really like nowadays especially. Like, there are so many interesting shows out now that, like, why would you ever watch something that you don't enjoy even this much? Like, if you don't enjoy a show this much, there is so much good stuff to watch. You should just instantly drop stuff. But like with The Walking Dead, I was so deep in. Like, I've made a like a 2 to 3 year commitment to it on the YouTube channel, right? So seeing it all just like end up like this is so sad. From what I watched and read, Andrew and I don't want to film anything without a solid conclusion in terms of spin-offs and moving forward. I hope so. I hope so. The one thing that could pull me back is a new spin-off. Like, and I don't mean a spin-off. I don't mean a spin-off, I mean like a new show, completely. With zero links to anything. If you want to, reset the world. Retcon Rick out of existence, I don't care. Tell a new story with the vibe of Season 1. The Last of Us was incredibly popular. The #1 complaint about The Last of Us, not enough zombies. The Walking Dead has a lot of zombies, right? So how about we just write a good story in the Walking Dead universe? Like Season 1 Walking Dead universe. And #2, what I would be very interested in is just a comic adaptation, and that's it. I don't think anything they make with these characters will get me back in, for the simple reason of I think they're already, like, past the point of going back. Like, I don't think they could ever nerf Carol or Daryl for it to make sense. So, Thorne doing a 180 and agreeing with Rick as she was dying was so jarring. That's like everyone in the show. It's like everyone is, and that's why I keep comparing them to NPCs. It's literally like they have their thoughts only up until they interact with Rick. When they interact with Rick, the press E to continue has been done, and dialogue has been exhausted. And then they change their minds. Look at what happened to Fear, though. Fear has the same exact problem. Fear is exactly what I'm talking about. Fear, the first 3 seasons, were like solid Walking Dead, right? I think everyone agrees that Nick was the best character they've basically made, outside of Rick. Nick was excellent. What happened later? Do we want to talk about the final season where everyone is invincible and somehow everyone returns from the dead? It's literally the same exact problem. And I don't understand why this is happening. I don't understand why they have such trouble emulating the danger of early Walking Dead. Because, like, they're not even trying. Like, if you watch the final seasons of Fear, they're not even trying. They're bringing back people from the dead. Literally. So, I don't know. I don't think the comics animated would do as good as we think. It's too late for that, with the majority being over Walking Dead. Genuinely, I don't think so. I don't think it's too late. I think it could easily be a, like a House of the Dragon situation. What did you think of the episode? I think it was the most average thing you could ever put out. The only bits of this episode I enjoyed was the ending of them reuniting, because it's just a nice scene, you know. That's about it. Like, the CRM's plan, I mean, that's just a me thing. I called the CRM's plan literally years and years and years ago. I thought this was what the Commonwealth was. I've said this many times before. So, everyone got mad when Glenn died and now they're scared. I agree with you. And I think, once again, if you want to look at Game of Thrones, the problem is how you framed it, right? Because, like, Game of Thrones has a lot of very, very big deaths, which made people very, very angry. But you know the best part about people being angry is that most people on the internet who are angry don't actually have an opinion. They are just angry. And they can come back as soon as you make something good. That is the best part about opinions on the internet. None of them really have any foundation so long as the next thing is good. I don't think, for 90% of audiences, I don't think a character death or anything like that would ever actually break the show if it were done properly and if it were followed through. I don't. I think Glenn's death was an absolute anomaly in the sense of it killed a lot of fun factor, and Season 7 was just miserable. So I think Glenn's death was more so like a death of 1,000 cuts, and Glenn was just a thing that, like, set off the avalanche. But from a corporate perspective, you are right. I don't think executives would want something like the Glenn death. I heard so many people saying it's a Rick and Michonne show, not the CRM. That doesn't mean the 2 people can take out the general. 3,000 soldiers survive 2 bombs. Unrealistic. Yeah, well, it's a zombie show. It's not realistic. This is why we have mediocre TV. You hit it. I mean, I assume we have a bit of survivorship bias, you know? You're in this stream, so presumably you agree with, like, at least a part of my opinions. But you hit the nail on the head, yes. Yes, like, the excuse that this is a zombie show and that Rick has always had plot armor, that is not an excuse. Because, like, you can have plot armor, but the plot armor doesn't need to protect you from a grenade in your face. You know, it's that kind of vibe. A lot of characters have plot armor, of course they do, but it's your job as the writer to make the viewer/reader feel the danger, to remove that plot armor from perspective, you know? Not revel in it. Not indulge in it. I think it's honestly, like, yeah, it's just an excuse for, like, clumsy writing, in my opinion. I'm just mad at AMC they ruined by dragging out the main show. I've gone back and forth about the, like, whole dragging out point, and, I do think that, like, the number of episodes is a big problem, yeah, but at the same time, I also think maybe had the writing been on par, people would have just kept watching. Because, like, the thing I keep coming back to is One Piece. One Piece has 1,000+ episodes, 1,000+ chapters. It's been going on for 25 years. I think it's more than that now. Might be 30. I don't know. It's gone on for a very, very long time. And you know what? One Piece peaked this year in terms of, like, audience and everything else. On Google Trends, One Piece is peaking now. Because it got better. It got better over time. And obviously it's not the same thing. Of course it's not. It's a very different market, very different niche. Everything is very different. But I don't think necessarily the length of something is a problem. I don't. I do think there's a universe where The Walking Dead is always good, and even like 193 episodes later, everyone is still watching it. I've seen plenty of media where one person blocking a grenade takes full explosion for everyone. Yeah, and that's dumb. That is, again, just an excuse. Like, the grenade, I honestly don't care about. The grenades are goofy, but I've accepted that no media ever will just adapt grenades, realistically. I talked about this in the retrospective as well. Grenades as a weapon are, like, they're nasty. Explosives in general are really, really nasty. The worst part about explosives is not the explosion, it's the shrapnel. That's the bad part. The explosion itself isn't really that bad. It's the shrapnel. And most shows just forget that, like, you run away from the explosion and you don't get your freaking limbs blasted off. That's not how it works. But that I don't care about. Honestly, the grenades at the end, that's just goofy. It's everything else that's the problem. I had a discussion in a YouTube comment thread, I swear. Some people really watch with their brain turned off. This episode was way too plotty and Love Doesn't Die. Like, the whole Love Doesn't Die thing, I can see why people would be like, you know, it's too much. I think it's too much. I think it's too much. I've said this before, I do not want catchphrases in my show. I don't. You're telling a story. You don't want to pander to the audience with Love Doesn't Die, we're the ones who live. Most of the time, these things should be subverted. If you say, I will live, we will be forever together, they should be torn up. That is how you tell good drama. But I honestly don't even care about that. If Michonne said Love Doesn't Die, in this scene, like when they reunite, Love Doesn't Die, I'd be like, cool. Love Doesn't Die. It's wholesome. But actually killing people and telling them love doesn't die? Why? Because, like, you can say that this, like, had too much, you know, like, lovey-dovey stuff. And, I can see what you're saying. For me, it's not a problem. I don't care. Whatever. Like I said, I think there's a beautiful story to be told about this romance in the apocalypse. I think it has potential. I think the way it was told here is just clumsy. Do you think the lack of source material caused problems for the CRM? I mean, I guess. I guess. But I mean, even where they had source material, it's not like they had messed up either, you know? Because, like, they've made a lot of... This is the thing that people like to forget. Like, Gimple led some of the best seasons of the show. You know, Season 4 was Gimple. A lot of the stuff in Season 4, with Terminus and everything, that is added for the show. There is no source material for that. And that was perfect. That was great. But they also completely messed up All Out War. So I don't think it's like, whether or not you have source material. I obviously think, like, leaning on source material is a good idea. but I don't think it's make or break. I genuinely don't. Some of my favorite bits of The Walking Dead are not in the comic. You know? Like the barn scene with Sophia. That was excellent. The bar sequence in Season 2. That was excellent. The highway in Season 2. That was excellent. There's a lot of really, really good stuff in the show that was never in the comic. I'm a diehard Rashoner, but some of the dialogue was corny, I guess. Anyway, it's getting late. I think I'm gonna go to bed. I am so shocked and sad. I keep laughing and I keep going on tangents, but you have no idea how sad I am. Oh, I guess the question, was it worth the wait? I don't think so. I don't. Should Rick have died on the bridge? I think yes. I think yes. I think Rick should have died. Obviously, the way all of that plays out would have been drastically different. I think Rick should have died, and that should have been a pivoting point for the story taking a different turn. In the same way that when Andrea dies, Rick spirals. Maybe if they had like 10 episodes, they could have made this work. But the way it is right now, nah. Can we get a X out of 10 star review real quick? I mean, right now, I'm not like... I am not in a very rational, critical state of mind right now. I think I hide it well, you know, but I'm not. I think it's like a... I don't even know, it's like a 5 or 6, maybe. I don't remember what I said with Dead City, because with Dead City I had a whole chart. I think it's average. I think it's just average. I don't think it had anything. I think it had good ideas, but none of those ideas ever amounted to anything. It's just ideas connected by Rick and Michonne. You joke about it, yeah, but like I'm kind of glad that this isn't just set up for a whole all of our armies versus the CRM. At the same time, the way the CRM is dismantled is also laughable. I don't even know. I don't even know. Because, like, even thinking of, like, the Dying Light story, you know? Like, Crane goes into Haran, and there's eventually a decision point. How will he adapt to living in Haran, where he has this, like, what was it, like, the GRE responsibilities? It's, again, moral ambiguity. It's not just good guys doing good things. Most powerful military on the planet, by the way. I think we've talked about it. I think we've spoken about this enough. A main channel video went out a couple hours ago. An Avatar video. I am much happier in that one, and it's a good time. I'm gonna return to the Walking Dead retrospective soon. Soon TM. Right now, I think I just need to lie down and recover.